All right. That takes us down to paragraph 2 on page 3. When we talk about a classification system. Now, a classification system is a grouping. And I want you to group something for me in front of you on the desk that you're sitting. I want you to group your writing instruments together in a pile. I want you to group your textbooks together in a pile. And I want you to group a writing pad in a pile. You got 3 piles, right? You just classified. You just did what you're going to learn to do in coding, but you're going to do it on a much more detailed basis. Now, if I had given you 3 labels, one label said textbooks, one label said writing instruments, one label said writing pads. Bam, 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 no problem, right? Well, this time, though, with a classification of diseases, I'm going to give you 999 different categories that diseases can fall into. Then I'm going to give you some categories called V codes that other reasons for health care encounter can be thrown into. Then I'm going to give you about 100 or so more places where procedures can be thrown into, comprising over 10,000 codes in this one book. So you see, while what you just did was easy, when you're getting ready to go into ICD 9CM, it becomes more complex because there's more things to choose from and more details to work with to put it in the right place. All right, if I handed you an ink pen, could you classify that with the stuff you have on your desk? Yeah. If I handed you a flashlight, would it fit? No, you'd have to find someplace else. All right, so that's what classifying is. Grouping similar things together. Okay? If we're going to group similar things together, which of the following would you group in one classification? Fractured leg, fractured arm, nosebleed. Fractured leg and arm. That makes sense, doesn't it? They're more similar. All right, what about if I said nosebleed, fracture leg, upper part, fracture leg, lower part, fracture arm, upper part, fracture arm, lower part. In other words, the upper part of the arm, the lower part of the arm, the upper part of the leg, the lower part of the leg, and nosebleed. What would you classify together? Might you have 2 classifications in, one for leg and one for arm? So you're getting how you classify things and you put similar things together. You're on track. Okay, in ICD 9CM, it's what we call a closed classification system. There is one place to code something and only one place. Now, as soon as I say that, I want you to recognize that sometimes it takes more than one code to adequately cover it. But you don't say, well, it could be here, it could be there, it could be there. I think I'll put them in all 3. You've got to find the best fit for it. When you talk about coding, what we're actually doing is assigning a numerical designation to a diagnosis or to a procedure. I didn't say a value, did I? So if something gets a code of 100 and something else gets a code of 600, does that mean the thing that gets the code of 600 is 6 times more awful or more difficult than the one that gets 100? No, not at all. It's a designation. That's all it is. We're going to take every disease known to man and we're going to put it in an outline. And when you got through English, you thought you'd never have to do outlining again. Well, you were wrong because you're outlining one more time. All right, how do we classify these diseases and how do we look at them? Well, I'd like for you to look at the bottom of page 4, where you see tabular list of diseases and injuries. Now, this book that you have in front of you is actually 3 books in one. And we used to actually have 3 separate volumes. You can imagine what that was like placed on your desk. Because I don't care how long you had coded, you invariably would pick up the wrong one by accident. Well, thankfully they got smart and started putting them all in one book. But there are 3 different books in here. If you turn toward the front of the book, I don't care where, let's say half an inch in, you're going to see what is known as the alphabetic. It is literally in alphabetic order. They put it in the front of the book because that's where you're always going to start the process. Always. Just scan it real quickly. We're coming back to it. Now turn middle way of the book until you get to something that looks like it's in a different print, like an outline. Mine happens to be a different color. I suspect yours may be. And at the top, it's going to say tabular list. Find up at the top where it says tabular list, somewhere across the top. All right, this time notice that it's in numerical order. Those codes are all in numerical order, aren't they? So that's the volume 1. I know I'm confusing you. We just looked at the front of the book and said that's the first book you go into, but that's really volume 2. This, the tabular, is volume 1. But we put it in the book in the order we need it. All right. Now I want you to flip about half an inch from the back of the book. There's actually really kind of 4 things in here rather than 3, until you find the operative index, and it's alphabetic again. And this time we're going to look up every procedure known to man alphabetically. And then if you flip one more time, about 1/4 of an inch from the back of the book, this time it's going to look like a tabular again because it is. So what you've got is an alphabetic for diagnoses and reasons for healthcare encounter, and you've got a tabular for the same purpose. Then you have an alphabetic for procedures and a tabular for the same purpose. The tabular, meaning the area that's listed in numerical order, is what you code from. However, the alphabetic is what helps you get to the right code.